Your biggest hate on all my cars is that bugs are stuck to them.
Mine?
Yeah. Here I am cleaning the bugs off Jason's car again. Photoshop.
Oh, yeah. Dude, 100%. That is the most accurate thing.
Hello viewers, welcome back to another episode of the Dodson Project here on the Grumpy Penguin channel. Today we're gonna, well, basically I'm putting it back on the ship. Oh, and we're demonetized. No, anyway, so quick update on the car. Haven't been doing a lot of filming on it lately because I've just been kind of really hitting it hard, trying to get the thing up to speed, trying to get it ready for spring. I did get it painted. If you follow me on Instagram, and if you don't follow me on Instagram, head over to Instagram and follow me. But I did get the car painted. I painted the engine bay to match the body color. And since then I put the body back to the frame, got the motor in, transmission in for the final time, got that beautiful exity clutch in there. Not sponsored, just love their products. Always used them on my SRs and always been a good time. But today I wanna get the cooling stack put on. So that's consistent of the front mount intercooler that my wonderful friend Ethan modified for me, the radiator and the oil cooler that includes coolant overflow tank, all the coolant lines. But in order to do that first, got to put the front grille back on because I won't be able to access any of the connection points once all that is in place. And before I do that, I'm just going to give this thing just a quick cleanup with just a little bit of metal polish. It was in pretty good shape. It's not perfect. Not a lot on this car is perfect. So we're just going to rock it for now, but I'm just going to give it a quick cleanup, get it installed, and we can move on to the fun bits. All right, so the first step is just to get this grill put in place. These attach pretty simply, and I don't use all the attachment points on mine. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of lock it in here with a few screws, and that's how it's always been on this car, and it'll hold just fine. Fitment on that's pretty good. Again, not perfect, but that may get changed out in the future. But for now, we got a grill. All right, next step is to get the radiator in the car. And for that, oh, you just got a good crotch shot.
Oh, what?
We'll kind of get this dropped into place. And this is a pain in the ass, but it's just kind of how it has to go together. You got to kind of stack everything and there's not a ton of access. So I'm just gonna kind of gently lay that in there, grab the bolts and hopefully kind of get everything in place loose, obviously, and then tighten everything up. It is kind of, I don't want to call it structural, but I think it kind of is structural. It does connect these two parts of the body together. So it's definitely a little bit of an intricate way to put this together, but the way it's built should be fairly usable. And you always want to get all this stuff started by hand first, especially on these older cars. These are older like captive nuts. These are original to the car, so they're, you know, the better part of what, 60, 70 years old now. And you just want to be real careful you don't cross thread anything, because at this point, everything's painted. And if you cross thread something, it's going to be painful. So always start everything by hand, never run it in with like an impact or anything like that. So just little tips I've learned over the years of breaking shit. So this is where this whole process gets a little complicated. I needed a place to put my coolant overflow can, but I didn't really have a good spot for it. So it ended up being kind of an integral part of the bodywork itself, or of the structure here itself. So this is actually going to go kind of right into here, and it kind of is a bit of a tight fit, but good. Everything is still lining up. So those are, oddly enough, Phillips head tapered screws, basically. The reason they're not bolts is there's actually not enough clearance between the intercooler and where these bolts would go to actually hold anything. So this is a bit of a goat rope, but it does go together, or at least it did before I took everything apart for paint. So start getting this fitted up. And again, just starting everything by hand, leaving everything loose until everything's kind of in place. That way, there's always room for adjustment. Kind of like right now. Something isn't quite fitting. So we're going to investigate why.
15 minutes later.
All right, so that's in place. So basically we've got the radiator set where it's going to be, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything down, because once I add the intercooler, I'm not going to be able to get to the majority of these bolts. So then we'll go ahead and slide the intercooler into place, and then the oil cooler will go on top of that. As I said, this is all kind of millimeter precise here. So you got to be a little bit careful about the order in which this goes together. Hopefully I remembered this correctly, that the intercooler needs to slide in next. Now, this is kind of an odd way that it's set up, because the Mishimoto intercooler I bought actually has 6 anchor points. I did utilize all 6 because, again, this is a bit of a structural member, and I just wanted to make sure that there was no room for vibration or movement. So I did use, or I basically modified the stock Datsun radiator mounts to accommodate the 6 tabs for mounting the intercooler. And if I remember right, this is a bit of a tight fit. So let's see if we can't get this put on there the first time. Bit of a struggle, but they are now lined up and in place. And as you can see, this is basically, I mean, I don't want to call it millimeter precise, but this is not a lot of workable area here. And I was trying to stack a lot of cooling potential in a small space. Again, this car isn't going to be making 1,000,000 horsepower, but I wanted to leave a little bit of overhead for cooling. So let's get this bolted down and we'll move on to the oil cooler. All right. Those are the bottom intercooler bolts secured. Again, probably overkill, but that is not going anywhere. Top radiator bolts just need to be tightened down here. And then, or I'm sorry, the top intercooler bolts just need to be tightened down here. And then the intercooler will be secured. So again, probably overkill for what we're doing, but it's gonna be plenty strong. And this intercooler is definitely not gonna go anywhere. So the oil cooler fills basically what is the rest of the gap between the grill and the intercooler, leaving me virtually no space for anything else. However, there shouldn't need to be anything else going in here. We are not going to have power steering on this car, and definitely don't need air conditioning since there's not even a top. So this is hopefully going to be more than adequate. SRs are a little bit finicky with oil temperatures, so this will help keep those cool, whether we're on track or on the street. All right, like a glove. Let's get that bolted down, and then we'll get the AN lines hooked up. All right, last step, oil cooler's bolted down to the frame. Again, not going anywhere. Last step here is to get the oil cooler lines in place. Might be a bit of a struggle here. All right, so again, not sponsored, but this oil cooler is a Koyo Red oil cooler. They've had a pretty good reputation, and I'm using all vibrant fittings and vibrant hoses for this, so should be a pretty good setup and very robust. I really do like the way that the Vibrant 400 series hose works with their quick fittings. Basically just press it on and go. If you want a little bit of extra protection, you put these steel clamps on, these stainless steel clamps here, and that helps quite a bit with, I believe it ups the amount of pressure and temperature it can take simultaneously. It was recommended by Vibrant to use both in this instance, so I went ahead and did that. All right, so that is the cooling pack completed. That's going to be probably pretty much it for this video. The next step is going to be to get the turbo in place and get the intercooler piping connected. So with that, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.